Or was there something deeper that I was missing each evening within the confines of my home? What did it mean? I should have asked him at the time. But one is often incurious for the seeming randomness of detail when overwhelmed by the imminent demise of a loved one. I wish I had asked. But then there was so much I regret that I did not inquire often, and now it is too late. As the darkness of both the day and his life closed in, why did he not turn to his greatest companions, his familiars, his books instead? What did he see in the flickering darkness? It had to be more than the film industry's excessive poetic justice in 3 hours. Shakespeare did it in less than that. But Dr. Harivansh Rai Bachchan was no longer in a hurry. Did he see reflected in the flickerings a flame that burns itself up, lighting up the fire of the written word within? Or perhaps cinema is just inside dogs. To the Penguin Random House, multinational conglomerate, Indian cinema older than Hollywood, now in its centenary year, the world's biggest on-production and viewership, we are our own monster. We are a veritable Makar, the Ganga's Vahan, an altogether different kind of animal. An animal of many animal parts, of crocodile and stag, fish and sea, an elephant with a peacock's tail. And there again, that's India for you. An Indianness, that layered, multiple and syncretic thing, Nehru's palimpsest. In India, a dog is just a dog. There's another dog that is symbolic of pollution, because in Hinduism, you are what you eat, and dogs are impure omnivores. Vedic long-term dogs are the lowest of the low, karmic descendants of caste, miscegenation. Another Indian dog is associated with unclean woman. A different kind of dog is honored companion of the god Malanna. One dog gives the claw mark of Shiv, and another is friend of the unfashionable old Vedic gods, Yam and Rudra. In the West, dogs are just pets. Well, so are they now for us too, and that is India for you. In a country like India, literacy is the main foundation of social and economic growth. Well, it certainly is for book publishers. Where was I? Yes, Makar, Indian cinema, and I. We have, the three of us, a lot in common. None of us are the sum of our parts, but the similarity stops there. Our nation has somehow, before our very post-independence eyes, invented the most successful form of entertainment ever devised by humanity, by sheer numbers of viewers, that is. Feature films are the great popular passion of India, cutting across all social divides of caste, class, region, religion, gender, and language. They absorbed all other performing arts from here and abroad and churned. Urdu and Tamil poet scriptwriters, classical Carnatic rags, blues and jazz and folk, and churned. The Indian film industry absorbed Parsis, Jews, Muslims, Hindus, Christians, Sikhs, and churned. It absorbed Tamil, Malayalam, Bengali, Kannada, Telugu, Gujarati, Punjabi, Bhojpuri, Assamese, Odia, so many others, and churned. Pageants for peasants, and art for aesthetes, and it churns and churns. And all our gods and demons out of the sea have made an extraordinary masala thing by all their churning. This filmy ambrosia of theirs is a nectar so intoxicating that it has achieved what no Indian politician has ever done and could ever dream of. In our cinema, the bad guys always come to no good. What about in India itself? Large crowds of disparate passers-by, Brahmin, Dalit, Kshatriya, Marwari, Jat, Muslim, Parsi, they burst into a unity of choreographed dance and song at remarkably regular intervals. Ever seen that where you buy your pyaz and tomato? Oh, well, better not go there because these days their priceless choreography is spitting out a different kind of dance. There is neither Pakistan in the music on the silver screen, nor Bangladesh in the punchline. Lord Curzon isn't even in the costume department. Indian cinema doesn't have a nuclear bomb. It never suffers a recession. How easily it is dismissed as merely, and here's a word I just hate using, Bollywood, degenerate, trivial, trashy, flashy hocus pocus. Because, you know, the whole country of the system is juxtaposition by the hemoglobin in the atmosphere. You are replenishing and intoxicated by the exuberance of your own velocity. Trashy hocus pocus. Our post-independence cinema played center stage, creating Nehru's vision of India, where both film, elitism and populism produced distinction and a new sense of collective imagining. What it does that nothing else has come near it is that it unites an entire people. And it goes beyond that. Our cinema respects no national borders. It unites peoples. Indeed, nature teaches beasts to know their friends. That is Shakespeare. Humankind cannot bear very much reality, and that's T.S. Eliot. I suspect that it prefers the truth. There should always be inherent tensions between populism and elitism. What form that truth takes, whether we take or like a particular form or not. With such a choice, it reminds me of what Krishna Menon said in a not so different context. He was asked once by someone while he was posted as ambassador, or perhaps in his early learning years in England, whether India would prefer to be ruled by the British or the Nazis. And he had very famously replied, one might as well ask a fish if it prefers to be fried in butter or margarine. Today, female literacy levels, according to the literacy rate of 2011 census, are 65.46%, whereas the male literacy rate is over 80%. 1 in every 3 women in India is illiterate. But let's look at it another way for just a moment, and in my own words. Everybody can watch an Indian film, yet not everyone can read a book. That's the simple difference. Even if you don't know the language, watching a film does not require any training, expertise, or erudition. But then neither does sitting, listening to the Ram Leela in the deepest and the darkest Uttar Pradesh, or keeping awake for those Kavi Sammelans that would go on to the small hours of the morning. Kerala has the highest female literacy rate, 92% according to the 2011 census, whereas Rajasthan is 52.7%. It has the lowest female literacy rate in India. States such as Uttar Pradesh 59.3, Bihar 53.3, that are the most populated states in India, show particularly low levels of female literacy. This is directly related to health, population stabilization, family planning, and infant mortality, where Kerala has the lowest infant mortality and Bihar and Uttar Pradesh have the highest. I'm trying to find words for something here. Perhaps I too may have missed the point in the past when bored watching an Indian film. I felt the absurdity of seemingly dislocated elements, and then suddenly flew into a rage. Why? What on earth is this song about? What does it have to do with the plot? What's it doing here now? But as I reconsider what I see in wondering what it was that my father saw, I have to ask myself whether counter-intuitively it's about something wiser. Perhaps it is wiser than the director, screenwriter, actor, and the audience, wiser than all of us. We all know how Indian cinema epic narrative is often interspersed with non-narrative, spectacular, episodic song. But what about this? That it most extraordinary mirrors our twofold tradition in ancient Hindu scripture of smriti, that of remember,